Good morning. Good morning. Maybe. Visible. Yes, visible. Sweet. Good morning. Good morning. I finally did it. I made Facebook Live producer work on here. I can get it to work on my personal page, my professional page, but on here it's been a nightmare. But not this morning, which is awesome. Good morning. Who's tuning in? The one thing though with this new Facebook Live producer, I have no idea who's on, how many people are on, or anything unless you write it in the comments. So that super sucks, and I'm sorry, it's really annoying, but I want to know all your wonderful, beautiful faces, who's here, where you're viewing from, and all that jazz. So while you are letting me know who's here, you know you're on TQN, the Quarantine Network. And you also probably know by now, if you're up this early, that you are watching me, Cassandra Renee, with Wild Blossom Beacon Coaching. And today, if you've noticed, starting last Wednesday, we had a special format for every day. Well, today is Transformational Tuesday. I know, my printer sucks. It's Transformational Tuesday. And what we're doing here today is focusing on the questions of who do you need to become to achieve the results you desire? Because I maintain this with all of my clients, everybody I talk to, who you have become so far, who you have become right now is not actually who you really are. It's only who you've become so far. So today, especially, we're going to dive deep into our belief systems. And Albert, hello, my brother. We are going to dive deep into your belief systems to find out what your core hidden limiting beliefs are. And once we find out what those are, then we can go ahead and finally take the steps to expunge them. So a lot of this, if you have not read, this comes from week 3 in my 12-week course. And a lot of this has been derived from this amazing godsend of a book, The Big Leap. It's by Gay Hendricks. He is a best-selling author, a New York Times best-selling author, and he's got several different books, but this book changed my life. And so I integrated it into my coaching, my teachings, and it's been a huge lifesaver, not just for me, but for several other people that I know personally, plus my clients. So go ahead and get started here. Want to just love that. Albert tuning in from Florida, right? You're still in Florida? I'm guessing, I'm assuming. I know there's a bit of a lag here. All right. Well, let's dive into it, shall we? So according to Gay Hendricks, there are 4 hidden beliefs which can trigger us as adults, and they're embedded in us when we're younger. Yay, still in Florida. How's the weather out there? How's everything been? It's finally warming up here today. I think it's supposed to hit a high of like 78 today, and it was a few degrees colder than that. Hey, Stephen, good morning. It was a little bit colder than that yesterday. So we're finally starting to see our regular March weather here. Okay, so hidden limiting beliefs, upper limit problems. So these are things that we believe in our core value systems, which aren't necessarily conscious, which we're not necessarily conscious to. But they're based on beliefs that were formed in us when we were little. And the fact that we unconsciously take them as a true and real statement, which we've embedded in ourselves, is actually the barrier that holds us back. So before I get into that, I've got some notes here that I want to touch on. All of this is in my recorded videos, but we're doing this live. So it's been a minute since I've recorded this, so I just want to stay honest and keep my references here because these are hugely impactful, hugely important. So I'm actually just going to read out of the book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of define this and talk a little bit about it, answer a couple questions. And then I would actually like to dive into a meditation this morning, just to kind of prime us, because this is really deep, heavy stuff. And I just kind of want to lay that foundation. So per Mr. Hendricks, think about it this way. Each of us has an inner thermostat setting that determines how much love, success, and creativity we allow ourselves to enjoy. When we exceed our inner thermostat setting, we will often do something to sabotage ourselves, causing us to drop back into the old familiar zone where we feel secure. Sound familiar? Here's how that shows up for you. Things are going great in work. You're, kicking butt. You are, if you work for somebody, you are just rising. You're having a really great week. And then something goes wrong with your health. Either you stress yourself out so much in attaining that awesome status in work that you've put so much strain on your health, or maybe something, you go home and you have a fight with your significant other. It tends to show up that there's always something in life that seems to be out of balance. No matter how good other things are, something, it's too good to be true. Cut that belief out of your system first and foremost. I had to learn to cut that out because it's not too good to be true. It's too good not to be true. Now, word of caution. Too good not to be true as long as you're not being sold on something by somebody. Here's what I mean by that. Opportunities can come to you and seem like they're too good to be true. Check in with yourself. Is this something that I am buying into, whether monetarily or emotionally, spiritually? Am I buying into this, or does it feel true? Does it light me up and excite me? Now, you're going to feel that, right? Of course, like if it sounds too good to be true, of course you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I can't believe it. And then this little voice, and we're told that it's the voice of reason, the voice of logic. Here's the thing. The voice of reason, the voice of logic is what keeps people in mediocrity. Look at all the big, successful, amazing people out there. How many times have they done something, and I'm not talking, for better or worse, really. How many times has playing it safe and playing it small served them and got them to where they are? Now, that's not to say that they haven't taken precautions as they've reached there, but is it the voice of reason? Is it really? Is it coming from there, here, or is it coming from here? So going back to last week and yesterday's videos about figuring out what is really authentically you and what is actually someone else. So it's really important to identify where these thoughts, negative or positive, are coming from. Because once you can identify that, then you can say, oh, you know what? This is just the man trying to keep me down. Or this is, this is actually my mother speaking. It's her truth. It's not my truth. I'm going to give it back to her and I'm going to pursue my own thing. So I choose, just like I'm choosing to look at this whole quarantine situation as a blessing, as a way to pause, reset, put into place new things, to reassess and look at systems that maybe were working but could be improved on, or maybe just honestly weren't working at all. And now having this time to decompress, I can be able to realize like, oh, how can I do this better? And that's what we should always be looking. Now, I talk a lot in other things about shoulding all over yourself. You really should on yourself. In effect, to say like, you should do this, or you should do that, or you shouldn't do that. Usually that comes from an outsider, and usually that is not very helpful. Because then you start conforming your own life to someone else's standards, someone else's beliefs of how things should be done. And usually the people who are shoulding on you are the people who are actually judging you because they didn't achieve the things that you're seeking to achieve. And it's a form of judgment. And we don't want to be judged. So, and when you catch yourself saying, I should do this, I should do that, now you're shitting on yourself. And that just goes back to all the natter, the negative chatter that goes on when the people aren't there to physically say it to you. So you bring it in. So going back to this inner thermostat, right? Homeostasis, the way humans work, the way biology works, everything is seeking balance. Everything is seeking harmony. And when something goes out of alignment, the amazing, incredible thing about being human is that our bodies naturally accommodate. We get an infection or a disease, white blood cells go to attack it to bring it back down. If we get too hot, we start sweating, so we cool ourselves down. We have all these mechanisms put in place mechanically, biologically, the way we are built. Wouldn't it stand to reason that our existential self has balance as well? The universe has balance, right? Sometimes people talk about it as karma. Sometimes people talk about it as, that's another word for it. What goes around comes around. That keeps coming to my mind, but that's still the same thing as karma. Oh, goodness. I just got news from my producer that this live is only on my personal page and not TQN, but it looks like she just added a watch party. That is so weird. I'm so sorry. 1 second. So, of course, just when I thought everything was going smooth, with Facebook Live producer, of course. Okay, so we're just going to stick with the watch party then. Okay, we'll stick with the watch party. Hopefully this works. Sorry, guys. This Facebook producer is just kind of a nightmare. Anywho, so basically, yeah. So everything is seeking balance. Everything is in harmony. Mother Nature will send a destructive flood or fire just to regrow and rebirth anew. I choose to look at this whole quarantine situation as the same kind of concept. And I'll be honest with you guys, we've had some warning signs along the way with earthquakes, with tsunamis, with locusts here in Vegas. And I'm not trying to get too into apocalyptica stuff, but things have to change. And if we don't change them, hey there, girly. If we don't change them, Ellie, hi. If we don't start taking massive action and changing and catching up with things and doing the deep inner work and coming out of this with a different insight and maintaining that sight and not falling back into our other ways, it's not going to work. And that's why I'm here on the network helping you to create this inner change, because it's not going to come from just watching a video here and there. It's going to come from doing the work outside of this and really diving deep. Because think about how many times you've asked somebody else to change. How well did that work? Probably took a lot of emotional strain and stress, crying, pleading, begging, only to be extra stressed out when they fall short of your expectations. Expectations, another thing that I am personally working on to get rid of, because that's not serving anybody either. We're all a work in progress, but it's that progress that differentiates us as humans from other species and allows us the gift and the ability to have all that we're capable of doing. So, tying this all in, upper limit problems. They're embedded in us. Remember when you were a little kid, or if you don't remember, go ahead and watch little kids. They don't know the word no. They don't know that they cannot do something. Limits are not imposed on them internally. It comes from outside sources, whether they're directly saying you can't do that, or whether they are saying it in a roundabout way around them, saying that they're never going to amount to anything, or they've got this disability and, oh, bless her heart, she doesn't realize that she's different from everybody else. but, she'll find out one day, got to prepare her, and it's that kind of line of thinking, which in some situations can be motivating, but at such young ages where you can't understand and literally things are pleasurable or painful. And the more and more things get added on, it starts to come into this gray area, and you start associating, perhaps wrongfully, things that go in the pain category that should actually go in the pleasure, or not even at all. So that's how we become, that's our building blocks of how we become who we are. And naturally, we're built to thrive. Look at every animal on the planet. Look at every flower on the planet. Plants are a great example. You study plants, and I don't mean like go into botany, but like look at plants. They are built to thrive. They come up through the cracks in the concrete. They create cracks in the concrete to thrive. And because we are the higher beings where we have the ability to rationalize and evolve and think, we are thinking ourselves dumb. We are overthinking. We are taking things that don't mean anything. And this beautiful gift that we have to create and think at higher, different levels and more productive, we're actually using it in the wrong way that it wasn't necessarily intended by allowing all this natter to come in and affect us. So somebody's saying, you can't do this. And then you see all these amazing stories of people who overcame challenges. They shouldn't have had to overcome anything. It shouldn't have been imposed on them that they have these limitations. And it's so heartbreaking when you see a child that's like, da, 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 and then they're put in their place. You see just all the light just drain out of them. Their big eyes like, how do you do that? Oh, I can't do that. It's heartbreaking. And it's happened to every single one of us multiple times, multiple ways. Now, the great thing is that can all be reversed, which is how we're going to tap into today. The other thing to note is that because of this programming, we go back to our homeostasis. We go back to what is comfortable, not necessarily what is enjoyable. We go back to what we know, because everything likes balance, and our inner thermostat, our inner programming from the key impactful years are typically from the moment we're born to about 7 years old. Now, other things can happen past the age of 7, but those are like the big, big impactful years. Often memories we don't even recall, or often super benign memories that don't seem to affect us. But once you start doing this work, holy crap. For example, my first hidden limiting belief, which I'm going to tell you right now, guys, we all of us, every single one of us suffers from this in one way, shape, or another. And if you remember what I said about suffering, the beautiful thing about suffering is it is a choice. But until now, you didn't know it was a choice. So of course you couldn't choose not to suffer. But now that you know that it is a choice, you have the ability and the power to change it around. And this is what we're all suffering from. Not that we feel that we're enough, but we feel that we are not enough in some way, shape, or form. And that can even show up as being told that we are too much. So we're going to dive into those. Even if we don't get into all 4 today, then that means all the more reason for you to stay tuned for the next episodes. I want to make sure I cover all that before we jump into a quick little meditation, which is actually going to kind of take the form almost of a prayer. Because this is heavy stuff. So I just want to make sure, and I touch base. I can't see who's watching because I'm using Facebook Live Producer. So unless you type into the comments, I don't know that you're watching or who's here. My browser alerts me when a friend of mine likes these, but other than that, I don't know who's here. So let me know if you have any questions, if I've kind of talked too esoterically and you don't quite understand it. I do want to make sure that you get this though, because it is vital. So how I mentioned before, how our body regulates itself, right? We sweat when we get hot, we shiver when we get too cold, and it's our body's way of calming us down. Well, mentally and physically, we have these tools, but because we're so evolved and able to think our things, talk ourselves through things, think ourselves out of things, we tend to quiet that, we numb that, we dumb it down. People call it our third eye. We dumb that down when it's calcified and we can't as easily access it. Now we do have that capability. We just don't naturally like our mechanics do. And this is how it shows up in that self-sabotage where things are going awesome in one aspect of your life. And then it's too good to be true. It's only too good to be true because you haven't experienced it yet, right? Things are only impossible until you've done them. They're only impossible until they're not. And you look at so many things that were considered impossible, the record breaking, like the first man to run an under 4-minute mile. He ran it, and then all over the world within the next couple of weeks or months, like 10 other people ran under 4 minutes, and no one remembers them, but they always remember the first one who did it. That's a different story. But the point is, things are only impossible until they're not. And just like when you couldn't ride a bike or when you couldn't write cursive, for you millennials, that's an ancient form of writing that we used to have to do before we got lazy and just went back to print. But in all seriousness, there were so many things in our lives as humans growing into adults that were once impossible. And once they became possible, we continued to repeat them. And that's what this is about, is growing and expanding. So we're taught dream big, right? But what they actually mean is, well, dream big, but in this box. You can't go outside of that box. That's not for you. That's for people with more money. That's for people with more privilege. That's for people who have put in the work and done that. And you're never going to put in the work. You haven't done it this far. So you can dream big. Absolutely. Have your dreams. Even though they might be pipe dreams. Oh, that passive aggressive little slide that parents would toss in. I don't know about you, but I got that a lot. Talk about another resilience for me. But go ahead and dream big, but only dream within this. And we don't even know that there's a bigger box that we could dream in. And what's worse, we don't know that there's no freaking box to begin with. We put ourselves in this box. And these limitations are what are putting us in the box and keeping us in the box. And we have the ability, hey, Derek, thanks for joining. We have the ability, and in fact, the obligation to ourselves and to the rest of humanity to discover what these limiting beliefs are and excavate them so that we can lay proper foundations that allow our homeostasis to be awesome at all times, so that life isn't too good to be true. Life is too good not to be true. And it can happen, and it is possible for you and everybody else. You just have to do the work. You have to identify these hidden limiting beliefs and remove them. And I'm going to help you get you there. So I hope that made things clear about the inner thermostat. Gets a little too hot, something comes to bring us back down because we haven't experienced it yet. So it's not comfortable. It's not routine. It's not muscle memory. Like when you learn a new dance routine or you learn the new route to take to work, eventually that just becomes muscle memory and you do it without thinking. That's the same way as having an amazing life. Amazing opportunities, manifesting. Amazing opportunities come to you. You stop having all the same problems, whether it's dietary, health, physical, monetary, socially, career-wise. These problems begin to go away when you remove the barriers that have been keeping them in place. Oh, things are going great. I've never had things this great before. Holy crap, why are things too good? I'm second guessing myself. Things can't be this good. I don't deserve this. They've never been this good. Oh, all right, there it is. Yep, I knew it. Something had to come along to because this was too good. You did that. Remember, life doesn't happen to you. It happens for and because of you. No, you might not have caused that other vehicle. Ooh, Grant Cardone gave me a real good lesson a couple weeks ago. I was in a car accident back in November. no fault of mine. The person admitted full fault. I was stopped at a red light in a bunch of traffic. It wasn't like, oh, one little car, where'd that come from? Lots of traffic. And I looked up in my rearview mirror and I was like, oh, that's too fast. And he swerved before he braked, smash. So I could have played the victim, but instead I said, oh, I'm so glad this happened because no one is severely injured. He admitted he full fault, and something amazing is going to come of this. And multiple amazing things have come of it. In fact, the fact that I can use this as an analogy in addition to personal injury case. Anywho, I immediately chose the belief of I am thrilled this happened to me. I am thrilled it happened to me because it happened for me. And why, I don't know yet, but I know something awesome is going to come of it. And it's training your mind to think that, because I could have easily victim. I mean, in the eyes of law and in the eyes of my personal injury case, I am a victim. I did nothing wrong. And a quality of my life was taken from me that I'm still dealing with. But victim mentality is just that. It's a mentality. And outside of personal injury cases, it doesn't actually serve you as a human to evolve. And this goes back to saying, I could have been like, life is amazing. I've got everything rocking and rolling. Things are good. Of course that had to happen. And now I don't have a vehicle. Now I have pain. Now I have this. Of course. Inner thermostat. But I immediately cranked that back up with my mindset saying, no, this happened for me. And I'm glad. I'll find out in time. And that's the whole God works in mysterious ways kind of thing. Keep tuning in to that higher vibration that, you want to listen to Star 102.5. You're not going to listen to that radio station if you tune into 94.1, the rock station. You want pop music. You literally can't tune into it if you're tuning in at this lower vibration because it's the wrong frequency. Same with positivity. Same with mindset. And that is how you work. In addition to these limiting beliefs, that is how you find out what's oppressing you and get rid of it. So I could have stayed in that victim mindset, woe is me, and, bad things always happen to me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I've identified one of my hidden limiting beliefs. And, I've identified several, but I've really worked to overcome that. And that has helped keep me at this higher vibration to allow really good things to happen no matter what. And that is how life can start being amazing all the time. I had to do the work to push those boundaries and get out of that box. But now, if a bad thing happens to me, it doesn't sabotage everything. And I'm learning and processing to get rid of that. So that is the essence of the spiritual, the karmatic way of bringing yourself to your new normal, because that's what it is. That natter that brings you back down, that takes you out of the game, that takes you back down from life's going great. Oh God, something bad's going to happen. Oh, there's the bad thing. No more bad things are going to happen. So I will share with you, and then we'll get into this little meditation prayer here, to give you an idea of how totally benign things can be that can have a massive impact that you have no idea. So I did this work with an incredible woman, Marissa Peer. She is a psychotherapist, and she's just incredible. And she helps people do this kind of work. And in one of her groups, I came to discover this. And there is this kind of whole meditative state that we're going to do. And what I discovered, it was a memory I don't consciously have. And I pulled it up. And this is where I ask you, regardless of what your beliefs are, to have an open mind and take what serves you, and whatever doesn't, just be amused by it. Because what we believe is what we choose to believe. And it can be super ridiculous. It doesn't have to be fact to make an impact. And we already know this by all the crap that we were told, but then overcame it, right? It was told as a given fact. You cannot do that. This is not possible. Semantics, I know that's not the definition of a fact, but bear with me. They were facts for us. They were our truths, right? Until they weren't. So take it as you will. It worked for me. And whether this is an actual memory or not, whether this is actually true, it served me in countless ways. So again, I ask you to come to this with an open mind and just hear it through. So in this, I discovered that this memory that I had when I was a toddler. So my mom and I used to live in an apartment complex after she had left my father. So she kept a diary from January to December. I was born in May. And so I have a little bit of knowledge of what was going on in her life before I was born and after. And needless to say, shortly after I was born, a few months later, they ended up divorcing, and we moved into this apartment complex. And I have zero memories of actually being in that apartment complex, but I come from a very small town, and often when my mom and I would go for car rides or walks around town and we would pass this complex, she would point out, oh, we used to live there when you were born. That's the only memory I have from it. So I did this process with Marissa Peer, with a whole group, and came to discover this memory where I was a toddler, and we only lived there for like a year and a half, 2 years. So I was no more than a year old at this point. I'm sitting outside. It's nice out. I'm sitting on the sidewalk and I'm playing with, like, I don't know, blocks or something. And she's behind me and she's on the phone. And of course, it wasn't cordless because those didn't exist yet. So she was, and she was kind of like in a porch area, kind of keeping an eye on me. And it's important to note my face in this because my back was turned to her. I didn't see it, but in this, this memory discovery, I saw it. And this is what happened. This is it. Pretend this is an old school phone. I would love to, but I can't. That's it. That's the memory. My dogs don't like that either. Puppies, it's okay. And that was what set into motion I'm 34 years old now, about to be 35. And for about 33 and a half years, that set into motion the tumultuous relationship my mother and I have always had. And it said to me, to my baby brain, which remember, can't identify, can't rationalize, can't take context and structure. We don't have that ability yet. And we know pleasure and we know pain. And that was pain. And so the meaning-making machine in my baby brain took over and said, you're not enough. Look, your own mother doesn't want to spend time with you. If you were, she wouldn't want to be somewhere else. The inflection of how she said that, how she paused, that was enough. When they say little babies, children are sponges, they're not kidding. We pick up on stuff. It's not even the stuff you say to them or around them. It's everything, guys. And I didn't discover this until, I don't know, Albert, help me out. I mean, you were there 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And even after discovering that, it took several years to work through that. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is because it's so seemingly benign and innocent. And of course, she probably didn't mean that. She probably just meant she's a new mother, early 20s. She was 22 when she had me. She was just, starting life. She was in nursing school, she wasn't even established yet. And all of a sudden she has this massive responsibility. 2018. Thank you. Yeah. she has this massive responsibility to, no, the first time Marissa Peer was before. No, it was before that. The first time, because I know she came back twice. With Jeffrey Allen was there, because I actually brought my Code of the Extraordinary Mind book, and I have Lisa and Marissa and Jeffrey, they all signed it. So that year, it was the first Mind Valley reunion, the first one. Anyway, she probably just was like, like anybody, like I would love to go out and do that. Like you're saying, I would love to go out and have drinks with you, but I've got to do work. It doesn't mean that you don't like the person. It doesn't mean that you don't love the person. It doesn't mean that that person isn't enough to you. But in my baby brain, set in stone, you're not enough. No matter what you do, no matter what you achieve, you will never earn her love and respect because you're just not enough. Now, thank God, I live next door to my grandmother, and my grandmother basically raised me. And my grandmother showed me the love that not only I wasn't receiving from my mom, but I already was not able to receive, even if she gave it, because she implemented and programmed in me to no blame on herself, because she didn't do it intentionally, but it was already formed in me. This is not going to work. It's just not. And I couldn't understand that my whole life. So I turned into a perfectionist. Everything I set out to do, I achieved with bells on. I was the president of this, president of that, captain of this, graduated third in my class. Anything I touched turned to gold. I was awesome. And if you were to try to congratulate me, I'd be like, I would be picking at my flaws. Like, well, thanks, but I really should have done this, or this was missing, or that. I could not receive a compliment. And even still to this day, I'm working on receiving. And my default mode is masculine, not so much the feminine. I've had to work to cultivate my feminine because I've got this, you have to earn your keep. And of course, that was added to, especially if you come from a small town, middle-class family. You're told nothing's for free. You have to work hard. Money doesn't grow on trees. Only hard work is rewarded. And so you've got all these things adding to it, reinforcing those beliefs. That is why it's so key to discover what these hidden limiting beliefs are, so you can extract them. And I like to consider these hidden, so Gay Hendricks talks about them as upper limit problems. I like to think of them, and in all of my work with my clients, I think of them as personality anchors. It's embedded in you, and it's kept you in this area. And there's more reinforcements, more weights added onto it. Once you discover what this is for you, you start having these epiphanies. And for me, it was 2 full years, almost every single day, at least once or twice a day, often multiple times a day. I would have these little epiphanies, these little pops, where just out of nowhere, like, I used to organize my Disney movies alphabetically all the time. All my CDs are I alphabetize everything. I'm very organized. Or, I make it a point to not do the singing the song lyrics. If I don't know, I won't do that. And I started realizing all these things that I could trace back to. Why? Why do I have to be like that? Why am I like that? Oh, that ties into my perfectionism, which ties into I had to be good. I had to earn my keep, which ties I wasn't enough. And you have enough of these, and it's like the movie Up with all the balloons tied to the houses. You have enough of these pops, these epiphanies that you can trace back and tied to that anchor, that you can finally lift the anchor. So it's not an overnight process, but boy, this breakthrough is an overnight process. And it's that next level in evolution, that next step to get you freed. So I took about 40 minutes to introduce this topic, but I'm not mad about it, because I think I gave you some really good nuggets in there. And I hope that I laid a proper foundation to prepare you for this. So we'll do a quick little meditative exercise I'm not going to do the full process. of how I work with my clients about this today. I'll probably get into that later this week, so stay tuned, because it is a big deal. It is pretty heavy, but I do want to just do that a little bit before I introduce what these upper limit problems are. So presuming none of you are driving, please go ahead and get yourself into a comfortable position if you're not already. And normally I tell you to have your hips elevated. You don't have to, but do have kind of a relaxed yet proper posture. You want to have your spine aligned. The reason I have you do this when we do any meditations is because it just allows, when you're slumped over, it stifles the flow of energy. Like if you have a garden hose and you kind of put a kink in it, everything's not flowing as properly. So when you sit up, and it's great if you don't normally sit up, it's great core work. It strengthens your core muscles and your back muscles, which is highly important, as I found out after having a back injury, to strengthen surrounding muscles to support you when other things might not be as supportive. So it helps the flow of breath throughout your whole body. So go ahead. You can go ahead and close your eyes. I'm going to keep mine open so I can be mindful of the time. And just start taking some deep cleansing breaths. Kind of slow the heart rate down a little bit. And now picture a light just above your head. Yeah, I'm going to slow down. Just, a couple feet above your head, at least an arm's length above. And whether that light is white, golden sunshine, pinkish, rose gold, it's this loving energy, this loving, healing, intuitive light. And whatever you subscribe to, dear God, dear Lord, dear universe, dear source, spirit, please shine down on me, allowing me to be open, flowing into my mind, help calm the monkey mind. Please shine down into my heart space. Allow it to be open. Allow me to access my inner compassion, my inner child. Please shine down into my stomach, into my gut. Open me up to be prepared to receive and hear and listen my gut instincts. I ask that you allow all of us to be available for the messages that you have for us to receive. I ask you allow us to explore our inner truth. Please help us open our ears to hear everything around us. Open our eyes, even though they're closed, to see all the things we may not have seen. To be available to understand what our current truths are. And to be even more available to receive what our real truths are. Please allow us the understanding and wisdom, and we are here open and available for your deep guidance to guide us through the depths of who we have become, to discover how we've become as such, and to identify what is really us and what is something that we have taken unto us that isn't ours. Allow us the strength to really identify and call out what's not ours. Allow us the courage and the tenacity and endeavors to pursue the extraction of these beliefs that do not serve us any longer, so that we can be free of their burdens and their limitations and rise up and live the epic lives we were destined to in the beginning. We know this believing, so be it, so it is. Thank you, guys. So we have just enough time to talk a little bit more to identify these hidden limiting beliefs, and a little bit more time for any questions you guys have. And if anything came up for you during that little meditative prayer, let me know. Type in the comments. So, the cognitive dissonance must be resolved in one of two ways: by returning to your previous thermostat setting, or by letting go of the old limiting belief, which allows you to stabilize at a new, higher level. The best way is to shine the light of awareness on these thoughts. So we just asked our inner selves, our higher selves, our source to help us access this, because it is much more difficult to just go back to the previous thermostat setting X amount of years ago. If you can, I want to know your secret. So, here's another example. And this is from Gay Hendricks himself. Let me know. I think we've probably already talked a lot about this, and I think I've given you enough good examples, but just to put it in his words, in case I might have missed anything. I have a limited tolerance for feeling good. When I hit my upper limit, I manufacture thoughts that make me feel bad. The problem is bigger than just my internal feelings, though. I seem to have a limited tolerance for my life going well in general. When I hit my upper limit, I do something that stops my positive forward trajectory. I get into a conflict with my ex-wife, get into a money bind, or do something else that brings me down within the bounds of my limited tolerance. So, what are these annoying things? Hidden belief number 1, feeling fundamentally flawed. Now, one moment here. The fear of being fundamentally flawed brings with it a related fear. It's the fear that if you did make a full commitment to living in your zone of genius, your awesomeness, your full power, you might fail. It's the belief that even your genius is flawed. Even the thing that you are the best at still isn't good enough. It's flawed. There's something wrong with it. And that even if you expressed the thing you're best at in a big way, it still wouldn't be good enough. This belief tells you to play it safe and stay small. That way, if you fail, at least you fail small. So I think I'm going to just briefly go over these, so you can let me know in the comments if one of these strikes you. And the truth is, often you might actually find a resonance with many of them, and start thinking. In tomorrow's episode, I'm actually going to guide you through an exercise. I'm going to go into these a little bit more in detail, and then I'm going to guide you through an exercise so that you can really do the deep work. So yeah, so basically the fear of being feeling fundamentally flawed. Something's wrong with you. Physically, emotionally, mechanically, biologically, like something is wrong with you. And no matter what you do, even no matter how well you do it, it's still not going to be good enough. So you might as well just don't go big or go home. You should probably just go home, or just play it small. Go ahead, play around with it, see what happens. But nothing's ever really going to happen with it. So go ahead and have fun with it. Ever get told something like that? Another, and I'm actually not going in the order that Gay Hendricks does because this order works for me. So yeah, that's the big one. Not feeling that you are enough, good enough, wise enough, strong enough. You're just not enough. Number 2, disloyalty and abandonment. Believing that more success brings a bigger burden. So, more money, more problems. I'll actually tap into these examples tomorrow. But yeah, basically ways that you can look at, did you break the family's spoken or unspoken rules to get where you are? So maybe you're successful, but even though you're successful, did the way you achieved your success not align with family values, and therefore you didn't meet the exact expectations that were set for you? So in achieving, or maybe you haven't achieved those things, but the things you desire that you want to achieve don't fall in line with what is socially acceptable or what is acceptable within your group. And if you pursue those, you'll be essentially cutting them off, or you'll be giving them the big, what's what. For example, every single person in my family, in my blood family, with the exception of my grandmother, her and I were always very, very, very close. Every single person in my family is in the medical field. Everybody. And I started in psychology. I mean, I guess you could kind of say I'm in the health profession as a self-love coach, but I decided to go into music business management, and that's what I got my bachelor's degree in. And I felt, yeah, and it was actually said to me, maybe not specifically directly, but it was definitely advised not to throw my smarts away, because I was one of, if not the smartest person in my family, academically speaking. It was actually told to me that, you should. They were shoulding on me. Yeah, and this is how it shows up big time. This feeling of disloyalty and abandonment. It comes in the form of a lot of shoulds, being should on. You should go into the medical field. It's a stable career. It's this. You should not throw away your talents. You should. So whether you do pursue it or you don't, either way, if you want to, it's going to outcast you because it's not in alignment with what other people have said. Same thing with, like, if you want to be a model, well, you've got to be like a size 00 and 5'7". Good freaking luck with that. The mechanics and the biology of that, not working, which is why there's so much Photoshop. And that's not true. There's plus size models, there's all that. But that line of thinking, I'm not going to be in alignment with that if I'm outside of that box. Oh, hello, my darling. So upper limit number 3 for me. Sorry, so I kind of combined those two. So number 2 is the disloyalty and abandonment. Number 3 is the believing more success brings a bigger burden. And that shows up in ways of, maybe they don't want to hear about the good things you've done. They don't want to hear about your victories. And what's important, that you're being a burden. Like, even the good things that you've done, it still goes back to not being enough. And, great, you've done all these things, but your mere existence has caused her stress. Like, Wonderful. You did all these things for mom. Great. But you know how much stress you've caused? You know how much she's worried about you? Da 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 da. You're still a burden, no matter how good or awesome or how much success you have, you're still a burden. And then another big one for me specifically is the crime of outshining. Don't shine too much. You'll make others look or feel bad. Kind of goes along with the whole participation awards where, oh man, if Johnny runs this race against his teammates and Johnny comes in first, instead of congratulating Johnny on having done a great job and having, trained and done awesome, we diminish him. Don't be too excited. Don't gloat. I mean, yeah, you don't want to be a poor sport. You don't want to gloat, but oh, Johnny, we're not going to acknowledge that you won because it might make the kids that didn't win feel bad. So, okay, Johnny came in first. That's great, but good job. You ran. You did the race. What did you? Okay, so you sacrificed one for the greater good. I got news for you. It doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to sacrifice one for the greater good, and you don't have to sacrifice the greater good for one person. Everybody can win in their own way, and it's not through diminishing one person's success. We should all be celebrating everyone's successes, because in celebrating other people's success, you get happy, you get excited. Forget the jealousy, forget the inadequacy, and that's what getting rid of these upper limit problems will help you do. Because I know in some cases that's easier said than done. But in eradicating these limiting beliefs, you're able to have genuine happiness for other people, which then raises your vibration so that if you want to tune into Star 102.5, you can, instead of only getting to 94.1 the zone or whatever that station is. You're not going to get there by staying at that frequency. So when you celebrate in other people's successes, you're raising your vibration. And when you are around other successful people, when you are around people who make you feel good, you feel good. You are up-leveling yourself. If in your career and business, you strive to reach different heights, you strive for promotions, you strive for more success, you surround yourself with other people's success. And that green envy jealousy monster is not going to help. And so many of us, instead of looking at things like that, we're victims of the crime of outshining, where you're so good at something, we need to ignore you. Douse your light. Be humble. Don't brag. Of course, don't brag. But you know what? Own your successes. Own the fact that you won that race. Own the fact because you probably put in a lot of work to do that. And even if you didn't, even if it came natural to you, own that. And it doesn't have to come out as braggadocio and ha ha ha, I'm better than you. No, it's just, I did this. Look at everyone you look up to. All the people who are your mentors, they don't hide behind, they don't say, yeah, I wrote a book. Yeah, I own multiple multi-million-dollar properties. Like, it's whatever. No, you look up to them and you say, teach me, how did you do that? Because they say, I own this. When people are speaking and they are introduced, this is the author of this. She's done this. She's founded this. She's done this. That's not bragging. That's owning your truth. And so as we dive deeper into this belief section, I'm going to help you own your truth. And it starts with finding out what these upper limit problems are, these hidden beliefs, these personality anchors, and working to extract them. So I did talk a little bit longer than I intended to. If you do have any questions, I've got about a minute to answer them. Type really fast. And as always, send me a DM. Keep typing in the comments. I will come back and revisit this throughout the days to answer any of your questions and to be here for you. If you are interested in learning more and diving deeper, because I can only dive so deep, yes, it can go way, way, way deeper than this. I can only dive so deep generically in a big presentation like this. So if there is more that you would like to learn, understand, listen to, find out about, send me a direct message. I'm happy to go into a free clarity call with you to find out what your goals are and get an idea of how to start working together. send me a message. I very much look forward to hearing from you guys, speaking with you guys. And Quarantine Network, I do apologize. This is supposed to, for those of you unaware, this is supposed to be being broadcast on the Quarantine Network right now. I went into the Quarantine Network and somehow this Facebook Live producer, great new innovation, put it straight to my private business page instead. So sorry about that. But thanks for putting the watch party on, Christina. I appreciate you. And real quick before I go, Albert says, for me, it was the resonance of this accident happened in my favor. I was in a car accident a while back and the pain comes and goes. Lately, I've been falling into that victim mentality. Thanks for the reminder that this happened in my favor. Thanks for this hour. You're amazing. Oh, I love you, my brother. He's my brother from another mother and father. My soul brother. Today was intense. Yes. This is where the work, see, we lay the foundations and then we dive deep. And this is where the work comes in. And yes, it doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. You can talk about the cliches of seeing the silver lining, but it's deeper than that. And I'm so happy to go into that with you. Outside of here, I do have to respect the other broadcasters on here. So thank you guys. I really appreciate you. Again, any questions, message me. And until next time, I will be back for the Midday Mindset at 11:05 Pacific Standard Time, 2:05 Eastern Standard Time. So I will see you there for another reset. And as always, guys, cough into your elbow, wash your hands, and stay home. Love you. Bye.